Today we're looking at a base design that looks like any other 2x2. As one of the most common build designs, it should, and that's the entire point. However, today's 2x2 is far from your standard starter base. In fact, this base, while operating like many others 2x2s, houses a very important difference. Something that will separate it from the rest and make sure that a raider never gets your loot. Before we jump into the build, a quick word about today's sponsor. If you've ever thought about hosting your own server, now's the time, because with Pine Hosting, you're getting one heck of a deal. First off, you'll be choosing from several server locations, allowing you to pick something close to home to ensure the best possible ping. Then, using a simple one-click plugin installer, you can add and remove any plugins that you might need with the click of a single button. And of course, because Rust can be a little buggy at times, Pine comes equipped with a unique AI system that not only helps detect problems early, but can also fix them with as little as a click of a button. The best part is all of this can be done in just a few minutes, allowing you to get right into the action as quickly as possible. All you need to do is select the best possible server option for yourself, configure any additional stuff that you might need, and head on over to the checkout. Here is where the real deal comes in, because using my link down below and code REX at checkout, you're going to be saving 30% on any server you rent, meaning you can be up and running for as little as $8 right now. When you go to build this base, you're either going to look for a flat piece of land or something like this. I like finding a nice little dip in the terrain, as it's going to help disguise this base a lot easier. Then we're going to start by placing a relatively low foundation. And then from here, you want to make sure that you have room for these low foundations, a raised foundation here, and then we're going to need to also double check that we have room for a couple low foundations. Now you're going to need one here, and finally one will need to go here or here. It doesn't matter too much where this goes, so thankfully I have this option right here. And then of course these you don't actually have to place right away. It's just about making sure that you'll have room for it. Once you know that you'll have room for it, you'll know that you'll be able to build this base properly. We can actually upgrade these two foundations, or you can wait for that one until later. From here, we go ahead and surround this in, and we're just going to upgrade that, place our doorway, and slap that on. Once you're locked in behind your door, we're going to be placing our TC in this back corner right here. Then we're going to be placing our first box very tightly against both these walls here. And then we're going to place our second box right here in this gap here. Now you do want to make sure that this box is placed fairly close to the TC. And then from here, we're going to place our starter furnace here and a bag right here. Now at this point, you can go out and start farming, but we are going to need to destroy these temporary pieces that we placed earlier. You'll want to destroy everything except for this extra square. Then from here, we're going to come over to this side, and we're going to place raised triangles and then a low triangle back where we just destroyed it. And then we're going to come over to this side, and we're going to do the exact same thing, placing two raised triangles and a lower. You can go ahead and upgrade these, as they are going to function as permanent pieces of your honeycomb. Then from here, we're going to stand over here. Actually, it helps to look at it this way. And we're going to select the square piece. Now, of course, we can't place on this side, but that's not important. We're actually just using that as a guide. So we're going to, while kind of looking at the middle here, very slowly and carefully bring that over from right to left. And then we want to place that here. The thing is, we need to make sure that this square has connected to this triangle rather than, say, connected to this square or this square over here. We're then going to repeat the process over here, taking this square over very slowly, and you kind of want to still be looking at this triangle while you're doing it. That's going to just ensure that it is snapping to the right place. And then from here, we can actually go ahead and seal this off. So we're going to place the rest of our honeycomb, and I did mention we need that one lower piece right here, so let's take care of that first. With that placed, everything else will be raised foundations. And we're just going to bring that around, and we can go ahead and upgrade those. For this piece here, you do have a choice to make. Some people are going to want to follow up with a raised foundation outside. However, I usually just go with this half wall here. There are concerns. People say, oh, you can tell it's a half wall, blah, blah, blah. You can't tell if it's a half wall next to two raised foundations. You can't see it. The only way to tell would be with a hammer, which most people aren't hammer inspecting random bases. Next, we're going to follow up with that here, placing that wall. You want to make sure you're standing on the squares that we placed when you place that half wall. This is just going to help ensure that things are snapping properly. And then, of course, we can fill that in. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. Now, before we place this wall, we're just going to go ahead and place these floor pieces. Because there is nothing else for them to snap to right now, they are going to automatically snap to this wall. If you've already placed this raised piece here and covered this, that's not going to have the same effect. Now we can go ahead and cover this up. And at this point, we can actually close in the rest of our base and start living out of it. Even without fully getting our bunker set up, if you don't have the resources for all of your boxes, we can just go ahead and close this off as you would any normal base. At this point as well, we can go ahead and place our shelf room, because this is going to be a storage room. And of course, fill out our doorways. We're also going to go ahead and create our airlock over here. And we're going to have this exterior door opening in, and this one opening out, and that's just going to provide a little bit of an airlock here. And then, of course, we can place our doors down. Now, I would wait on these doors in here until you get this bunker area filled out. We're going to go ahead and grab our boxes. You are going to need 6 large boxes. And we're going to place the first one like so. You want to make sure that when placing these boxes, it goes past the line here. It doesn't have to go past the line a lot. It just has to go past the line. We're going to do the same thing right here and right here. Now, if you go too far out, you are going to struggle with this next bit, but we're going to jump up here and we're going to place boxes like so. You want to make sure that this diagonal box points over here and goes through, crossing that middle line. That's going to be so that you can actually access it from above. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. You don't need much to stick through, but the more that does stick through, the easier it is going to be for you to loot later. Because you are, as you can see, there's only going to be that small area that I can loot from. And then once these are all down here, you are going to want to lock them up. You're going to want to make sure to place at least key locks on them so that nobody else can just loot them from the top level. And once that's spammed on, we can jump back up here, and you can either do it from this side or through this doorway. But we want to look at our half wall here. Now, if your half wall was on this side, you would just do it looking down. But again, just like we did with the snapping before, we want to make sure that this snaps to this wall and not that over here or this over here. Either of those would actually break this. So you do want to make sure that this works before you wait the 10 minutes that you could destroy this with. Obviously, if you can't access the gap, you would destroy this and try again. But we're going to just come on over here and see if we've done that correctly. So you do need to kind of line up in the middle. As you can see, I'm getting the open symbol. It can still sometimes be a struggle to find it, but I will go over some tips that'll help you loot that in a bit. Right now, we're just looking to make sure that we actually can see it. And of course, I've seen it over here as well. So we can now go ahead and place our boxes in our loot room. When you're placing these boxes, you want to make sure that you don't place them covering too close to that middle crack. Otherwise, you will struggle to loot it. If you do want to place the extra small boxes up here, that's not really an issue. Coming over here, we're now going to redo this room completely. Taking off this door, and we can go ahead and add our shelf. Then our first box will go right here, and you do kind of just want to let go of the crouch key. It gives you a little bit more space. And then we're going to place our second one right there. You can also, again, place a small box up here and down here. And then, of course, it's about getting your doors on. Now, you can absolutely live with regular double doors. The problem is, as I'm sure you can see, there's a metal line here that just says closed door. This means, obviously, you can't loot those boxes without actually removing the door and then looting it. This can help for deterring raiders from actually thinking to look down there. So if they do catch you with a door open or something, obviously they won't think that there's any loot down there. But in my opinion, the better option is to go for garage doors as quickly as you can. Not only will this provide you with extra security, it just does make looting those gaps significantly easier. Now for the rest of the base, for the rest of the honeycombing, it is fairly straightforward. You are just going to go around and give yourself some honeycomb. You can obviously put your door wherever you want and expand out from here fairly easily. The only issues are going to be the parts where you do have that low wall. Obviously, you will need a low foundation to continue honeycombing there. Aside from that, I would make sure to definitely add a pancake layer to the roof piece, just to make it a little harder to top down. And of course, these walls should be facing so that you make it a little more difficult to get to those loot rooms. Now, I did mention before that gap is a little difficult to get to sometimes, especially lining yourself up. One thing I highly recommend is if you can turn a crosshair on your screen, it'll make getting to this gap a lot easier. I actually have a crosshair, and that can make finding that little gap significantly easier. However, you can still struggle with this method, as actually getting the box to open can be a little finicky. For that reason, it can be useful to grab something with an actual crosshair itself, especially if you don't have a crosshair you could build into your monitor. Any type of weapon is usually pretty good, and of course you'll want to enable the in-game crosshair to do so. Without the crosshair, you can actually use a seed, normally something you would just replant or throw away. A seed can actually help you find that gap by kind of going through and down into it when it finds it. Using that, you can very easily find your access to your boxes, and if you're not used to a gap, it can be very handy. Finally, there is our lookout radius. We can actually take our lookout radius and turn that down to a lower decimal. That's actually just going to make it significantly easier to click on the gap, as it's going to go specifically to where our crosshair is. This is going to make other things interfere a lot less, but it is going to require that you're pretty precise in looking at that gap. Of course, the trade-off for being a little harder to find your loot is the fact that it is significantly more hidden from raiders, and it's going to be hard for them to even know that there's any loot down there. Of course, I did want to thank Pine for sponsoring this video, and if you did want to host your own server, you can do so now using the link down below in the description, and code REX for 30% off. As well, if you're looking for something to up your base to the next level, why not check out this automation video, which can teach you how to very easily fully automate your base, so that one depot box can spread your loot out to everywhere it needs to be. Until next time, have a safe wipe, and peace out.